Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear students, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Today I will discuss on new chapter 2, the role of communication in the business organization. অর্থাৎ ব্যবসা প্রতিষ্ঠানের ক্ষেত্রে যোগাযোগের ভূমিকা. Our discussion topic will be meaning of organizational communication, types or forms of organizational communication, components of communication, and finally, problems in effective communication. At first, I will discuss on meaning of organizational communication. That means, what does it mean, organizational communication? Organizational communication is a process of communication in which information are exchanged within internal and external stakeholders of the organization to achieve the organizational goals. অর্থাৎ অর্গানাইজেশনাল বা ব্যবসায়িক কমিউনিকেশন হলো এমন একটি যোগাযোগের প্রক্রিয়া যেখানে তথ্যগুলোকে আদান প্রদান করা হয় ইন্টারনালি এবং এক্সটার্নালি অর্গানাইজেশনের অভ্যন্তর এবং বাহ্যিকে টু অ্যাচিভ দ্য অর্গানাইজেশনাল গোল অর্থাৎ প্রতিষ্ঠানের সাফল্য বা গোল অর্জনের জন্য. The businesscommunication.com said, organizational communication is the exchange of information, ideas, and views within and outside the organization. অর্থাৎ অর্গানাইজেশনাল কমিউনিকেশন একটা তথ্যের বিনিময়, একটা ধারণার বিনিময় অথবা কোনো দৃষ্টিভঙ্গির বিনিময় যেটা অর্গানাইজেশনের অভ্যন্তরে এবং বাইরে অবস্থান করে. Goldheber said organizational communication is defined as the flow of messages within a network of interdependent relationships. Goldheber বলেছেন অর্গানাইজেশন কমিউনিকেশন হতে পারে একটা আমার মেসেজের ফ্লো উইদিন এ নেটওয়ার্ক অফ ইন্টারডিপেন্ডেন্ট রিলেশনশিপস অর্থাৎ একটা পারস্পরিক নির্ভরশীল সম্পর্কের সাথে একটা নেটওয়ার্ক সিস্টেম যেখানে মেসেজটা ফ্লো করা হয়ে থাকে. এটাই হলো organizational communication. So, at a glance, we can say that organizational communication is a sub-classification of a communication which provides information or exchange information inside the organization as well as outside the organization to achieve the organizational objectives or organizational goals. So finally, we can say that organizational communication is one kind of exchange of information inside the organization as well as outside the organization to achieve the organizational objectives or organizational goals. অর্থাৎ ব্যবসায়িক বা সাংগঠনিক যোগাযোগ হলো এমন একটি যোগাযোগ মাধ্যম যেখানে ইনফরমেশন গুলো বিনিময় হয় অর্গানাইজেশনের সংগঠনের ভেতরে অভ্যন্তরে এবং বাহিরে এবং এর মূল উদ্দেশ্য হলো প্রতিষ্ঠানের গোল বা উদ্দেশ্য অর্জন করা. So my dear students, I think everybody understand me what I want to say about the organizational communication. Now I will discuss on types of organizational communication. There are 3 types of organizational communication. Number 1, internal operational communication, external operational communication, and finally personal communication. ইন্টারনাল অপারেশনাল কমিউনিকেশন অর্থাৎ অভ্যন্তরীণ কর্মক্ষম যোগাযোগ। When communication occurs internally or within the organization, then this type of communication is called internal operational communication. Actually, when communication occurs within the organization for operational purpose, then this type of communication is called internal operational communication. Internal operational communication done among the members, such as workers, managers, board of directors, member of trade unions, and other employees who are inside the organization. Such communication actually done through formal communication and official communication within the organization for achievement of organizational goals or objectives. Such types of communication may be occurred in two forms. Number one, oral form, and another is written form. Oral communication occurs through face-to-face conversation, telephone, meeting, etc. At the same way, written communication is done through orders, instruction, reports, memos, letters, etc. So when communication occurs within the organization to fill up the organizational purpose, to achieve the organizational objectives, to achieve the organizational goals, these types of communication is called internal operational communication. Now I will discuss on external operational communication, অর্থাৎ বাহ্যিক কর্মক্ষম যোগাযোগ। When communication is occurred outside parties or communication is done with the outside groups is known as external operational communication. External parties includes our customers, suppliers, government agencies, regulatory authority, local community, special interest group, and the general public. So we can say that when communication is done outside the organization with the outside parties is called external communications, and external communications mainly done with the suppliers, customers, government agencies, regulatory authority, local community, and the special interest groups and general public. So we clearly understand the external operational communication as well as internal operational communication. So finally, what is personal communication? অর্থাৎ ব্যক্তিগত যোগাযোগ। When communication occurs for exchanging personal information, ideas, and feelings rather than business related information is termed as personal communication. Not all communication that occurs in business is personal. So sometimes when you conduct in your business communication, sometimes you have to conduct some communication personally. You can exchange your personal opinion, personal views, personal ideas, personal thinking with your peer levels, that means your colleagues, and you can share such opinions with your upper levels. You can communicate in lower levels. So upper levels and lower levels communication, you can conduct your personal emotion, personal sadness, personal feelings. These types of communication is called personal communication. So in our organization, you must go through informal communication. This communication may be internal operational communication, maybe external operational communication. Beside with this, you sometimes need to communicate in personally. This type of communication is called personal communication. When you conduct for personal purpose with your peer levels, that means colleagues, with your upper levels, with your lower levels. These types of communication is called personal communication. Now I will discussed on components of communication, অর্থাৎ যোগাযোগের উপাদানসমূহ। When you conduct or communicate with others, you need some components. Without such components, you cannot communicate effectively or successfully. So first of all, you need your first components of communication is context, অর্থাৎ পরিস্থিতি বা প্রসঙ্গ। Every message, oral or written, begins with the context. Every communication occurs within a context which helps shape the message. অর্থাৎ প্রত্যেকটি মেসেজ তোমার শুরু হবে কন্টেক্সট দিয়ে, বা অর্থাৎ প্রসঙ্গ। তুমি কোনো একটা প্রসঙ্গ ছাড়া কিন্তু কারোর সাথে কমিউনিকেশন করতে পারবে না। প্রত্যেক কমিউনিকেশনের মধ্যে একটা কনটেক্সট আছে, একটা প্রসঙ্গ আছে, যেটা একটা হেল্পস দেয়, শেপ দেয় মেসেজের ক্ষেত্রে। বিজনেস কনটেক্সট ইনক্লুডস urgency, timing, company culture, and the setting in which the message will be received. Context is a very broad field that consists of different aspects. One aspect is country, culture, and organization. Every organization, culture, and country communicates information in their own way. অর্থাৎ তুমি যখন কোনো কমিউনিকেশন করতে যাবে, তখন তোমাকে অবশ্যই একটা কনটেক্সট বা প্রসঙ্গ নিয়ে কমিউনিকেশন করতে হবে। উইদাউট কনটেক্সট ইউ ক্যানট কমিউনিকেট উইথ দ্য আদার পারসনস। নেক্সট, সেন্ডার অর ইনকোডার, প্রেরক বা সংকেত লেখক। When communicates from one person to another person must be a sender. That means who send the message, who encode the message is called sender. Here, sender or encoder is a person who sends the message. Sender is the initiative, the process of communication. To ensure a successful communication, the sender must consider the context of the message, who will receive it, and what the message should accomplish. So sender is the important person in case of communication, who send the message first time and send message to the receiver. So sender is important components of communication. Number 3 is message. Message or topic or information, same. So context is important. At the same time, sender is another important elements or components of communication. So message is very, very important components of communication. When you conduct officially or formally, even it may be unofficial, informal, but message is important. Without message, you cannot send a information. Without information, you cannot contact with other person. So when you contact with other person, you must send a message or information or ideas, transfer the ideas is important. So message is important in case of in communication, and message is the information that is exchanged between sender and receiver. So message component contains the actual information a sender needs to supply. Message be intentional, ইচ্ছাকৃত, or unintentional. So message should be easy to read and negotiative fonts with space and headings can help the communication process. So message is important in case of communication. So a very important components of communication is message. Number 4, medium. Medium is important in case of communication. So when you go through informal communication or informal communication, which one? You must choose the medium. It may be oral communication or maybe written communication. When you go through oral communication, you must choose the formal communication medium. Suppose in case of official communication, you must follow telephone or mobile phone. At the same way, when you communicate in written form, you must follow computer, letter, email, fax, etc. etc. So in your communication, you must follow the formal medium to transfer the information to the receiver. So very important components of communication is medium. So without formal medium, you cannot transfer your message, you cannot transfer your information to the receiver. Number 5, receiver or decoder is another components of communication. Suppose you are the sender, you have message, you use medium, you have context, everything is all right, but you haven't the receiver where you can send the message. So without receiver, your communication will be fruitless, will be meaningless. So without receiver, your communication will never be fruitful, will never be successful. So for meaningful, for successful communication, your receiver is important, and it is important components of communication. Finally, feedback. Feedback is another important components of communication. Suppose you are the sender, you have receiver, but receiver receive your message or receive your information, but they haven't give the feedback to you. So what happened? The ultimate result is to there is no fame, no output of your communication. So feedback is important. Feedback is important output in your communication. Without feedback, your communication will be mismatched, will be misleading, will be fruitless, will be meaningless. So for meaningful, for successful communication, feedback is important in case of communication. Problems in effective communication. অর্থাৎ কার্যকরী যোগাযোগের সমস্যা. Before this, I have discussed on organizational communication, components of communication, types of organizational communication, but there have some problems in effective communication. To become effective communication, there are some criteria. To fill up some criteria. Without such criteria, your communication will not be effective. So there are some problems in effective communication. Those problems are available in our communication field. If such problem arises, any one problem arises, your communication may be ineffective. So the following problems are available in our effective communication. The following problems are barrier in our effective communication. Number 1, lack of full attention. Number 2, lack of sensitivity, lack of skill, lack of knowledge, overload, noise, failure to communicate fully, using wrong communication tool, and saying too much. Number 1, lack of full attention, সম্পূর্ণ মনোভাবের অভাব. When you communicate with other, it may be formal or official communication, or may not be formal or official communication. It may be personal communication. Anyone. When you communicate with others, you should give your full attention. If you don't give your full attention in case of communication, your receiver may be misleading, your receiver may be misunderstanding you. So your communication, your message may be supply or give negative signal or negative attitude about yourself. So when you communicate with others, especially official purpose, you must give full attention. Without giving full attention, if have any lack of full attention, your communication will be misunderstanding, misleading. So it's an important problem in our effective communication. Number 2, lack of sensitivity, সংবেদনশীলতার অভাব. When you communicate with others, especially formal communication, you must keep your mind the receiver's attitude, receiver's behavior, receiver's personality, because you should keep your mind. One person is different from another person. One person mentality is different from another person. So you cannot use the common platform for your receivers. So when you send your message or provide information, you must keep your mind about the receiver's personality, receiver's quality, receiver's mentality, receiver's attitude, views, etc., etc. Because if your receivers is sensitive mentality, so you follow 100% formal behavior. Never use informal behavior, because your receiver may not be like you. So sensitive behavior is important in case of effective communication. Number 3, lack of skill, দক্ষতার অভাব. When you communicate with others, you should have skillful quality. Without skill or disqualification, you cannot communicate with others successfully. Suppose when you communicate across the country, you must continue your information in English, maybe written form or maybe oral form. So without international language, you cannot communicate outside the country, even outside the organization. So if you are not qualified or fluent in English, you cannot conduct with other outside the country or outside the organization. So lack of skill is important problem in effective communication. Number 4, lack of knowledge, জ্ঞানের অভাব. When you communicate with others or send any message, official message or information to others, you must have sufficient knowledge about the subject matter, about the topic, about the message matter, about the information. Otherwise your information will be misleading or misunderstanding about you. So sufficient knowledge is important in case of communication. Without sufficient knowledge, you cannot communicate with others or successfully communicate with others. So lack of knowledge is another problem in case of effective communication. Overload. A message, when you provide message to others, to the receivers, you must follow formal, specific, and shortcut message. Never use overload or too much information, because too much information will misleading your objectives or misleading your communication purpose. So never give overload information. Just say the specific topic, say the specific message, say the specific one idea, what you want to say and what you want to reply from your receiver. So it's important fact in case of effective communication. So overload is another problem in case of effective communication. Number 6, noise. Noise means outside interference in communication. That means a bad phone connection can interfere with communicates effectively over the phone. Suppose if when you conduct through the internet, if your internet connection is down, you cannot connect properly. So this type of outside knowledge is important in case of effective communication and creates problem in case of effective communication. So when you communicate with your receiver or send any message to the receiver, you must careful about the outside noise, like bad telephone connection or bad internet connection. Please carefully avoid this, otherwise your information will be misleading or misunderstanding to the receivers. Failure to communicate fully. সম্পূর্ণরূপে যোগাযোগ ব্যর্থতা. Suppose when you communicate with others, you must communicate fully what you want to say. You never give partial information, because partial information will misleading your motives, misleading your objectives. So when you communicate with others, especially official purpose, especially formal purpose, you must communicate fully and your message will be completed information. Incomplete information never be sent to the receiver. So sometimes failure to communicate fully is another problem in effective communication. Number 8, using wrong communication tools. Sometimes when you use wrong communication tools, then it will hamper your successful communication. So when you communicate with the receiver or with the official purpose, must follow the appropriate communication tools. Suppose when you need a shortcut information from your boss, you must follow the telephone. You can send information over telephone. But when you need some information from your instruction, from your upper level boss or instruction, he or she may send a official notice, official instruction, official letter, or need to keep permanent record. When you need to keep a permanent records, you must use written communication tools, not go through oral communication tools, because oral communication never creates a permanent record. So using a wrong communication tools will hamper the effective communication. So it's another problem of effective communication. Number 9, or finally, saying too much, অর্থাৎ অনেক বেশি বা অত্যধিক বলা. So when you communicate informally or officially, you must go through shortcut, specific and to the point information. Never give haphazard or too much information, or never say excess word, excess sentence, excess in explanation. Just follow the shortcut information technique, which will helps to give you effective communication and successful communication. Otherwise, if you give, say, the too much or haphazard or too much, gather too much information, it will create a problem in your effective communication. So those are the problems in case of effective communication. When you communicate successfully, you must follow and be careful about these types of problem. Suppose lack of full attention, lack of sensitivity, lack of skill, lack of knowledge, overload, noise, failure to communicate fully, and wrong communication tool, saying or providing too much information. Avoid these types of problem and be alert and careful about information. So when you provide information, you must be specific, to the point, and clear cut idea what you want to say and want to send the message to your receiver, because receiver will respond or will provide feedback about your sending message. So this type of clarity and concrete information will provide effective communication. Otherwise, your communication will be ineffective or mismatch. So be careful about providing your information. My dear students, those are our today's discussion. I will try my best to explain our discussion topic, which will help to understand what is our organizational communication, types of organizational communication, components of communication, and finally, problems in effective communication. If you feel any problem, you can cordially contact with me, and I will try my best to understand you. And I think this, if you carefully listen my topic, listen my lecture, it will help to understand the discussed topic, and it will helpful for you chapter wise lecture and topic understanding. So our discussion is up to this. I will meet you our next session in our next discussion. So everybody will stay well and fit and stay safe from others and maintain social distance, and Almighty Allah help us to ensure good health and safe and secure. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.